All right, hello and happy Monday. For those of you at home, not to you guys, that would have been weird, right? Yeah. Agreed. Okay, so today we are going to be doing our last installment of Introduction to Literary Analysis. If you check our Google Classroom today, you will see that I have decided to cancel class on Friday. So enjoy that time. And then next week, we'll be watching the film Christmas with the Cranks in class. So I encourage you, if you're at home, to watch that movie. I think that it's for free on Amazon, but I will double check that and I will put some links up here for options for you guys since I can't share copywritten material, unfortunately. Okay. There it goes. Why isn't my computer working? All right, so today we are talking about making assertions. And I have included for you a document about making assertions. You will be using that at a certain point. And then using analytical verbs. For those of you out here, if you would go ahead and open both of those documents for me, just so you have them ready. So we've worked on summaries, we've worked on analysis and the difference between summary and analysis. And we've gotten pretty savvy at both of those skills. Reading what you guys have written so far reflects to me that you are doing a great job with both of those. So after we do, after we read, after we make summaries, after we make some basic analysis, we can make assertions about what we read or see. And then this is clarification, assertions, which is another word of saying claim or argument. Okay, so kind of think of all of those words as together. Assertions, claims, arguments, those are all the same things, okay? And that is all based on your interpretation of what our author has done, what our author's choices are. So we're going to practice this skill looking at some real life situations. And kind of make some assertions about what we see going on. So our first one is we're going to make an assertion about our friend. Okay, you've got a friend. Her name's Judy. She's normally really happy and she's really talkative when you see her. And this morning she comes into class and she stares straight ahead and she doesn't say anything. So what's the first assertion? What's the first kind of claim or argument that you might be able to make based on her behavior? Something happened, right? Like that's a logical assumption. Now she could also be in a really bad mood, right? But we can kind of think something's going on with Judy. She's not quite being herself. Judy's boyfriend, Michael, comes into the classroom and sits far away from her. They always sit together. She sees this and crosses her arms. So what kind of assertions can we make about these facts? Something happened, right? What's our evidence that something's happened? They're not sitting next to each other. Something's happened. So we're going to say they're sitting away from each other. We've got that. What is another assertion that we can make based off this? Maybe there's been a fight. Okay, so what's some evidence that we have to justify that? She's crossing her arms, which we tend to get to do, and when we are when we're angry, right? Okay. Is there any other kind of assertions that we can make based off of this? They might be about to break up, right? Or maybe they did break up, right? Okay, good. Michael is smiling and laughing. Judy looks over at him with a scowl. So what assertions can we make about what's going on here? So Michael's having the best day of his life. And Judy, not so much, right? So what kind of assertions can we make? He maybe break up with her. Good. Okay. All right. Anything else? Michael's smiling and laughing. Judy looks over at him with a scowl. Yes, yes. Or, you know, he also could be trying to get her attention. Have you ever had that happen before? Or have you ever done that to someone? Like you're mad at them, but you're like trying to laugh really loud or like be really like act like everything is totally fine just because you want to just rub it in. I've done that. It's not my best move in life, but I've done it. Okay, so based on the facts, it would be safe to interpret that they either had a big fight or that they broke up. If it were a fight, would Michael be smiling or would he be sad too? What do you think? Okay. Maybe it depends on the kind of fight. So if it were like a serious fight, then maybe they both would be upset. But like maybe it was a stupid fight, right? And also it would kind of depend on Michael's personality. Like he might deal with conflict by laughing and joking and being that way, right? And maybe he thought that the fight wasn't a big deal. So then why would he choose to sit far away from her? To give her some space. Okay, I like that. That's a very like mature response. What's another possible conclusion? So maybe she is doing this as a method to try to get him to apologize. Is that kind of what you're gesturing toward? Or the other way, like he's hoping that she'll come up and say, hey, you're overreacting, Judy. You're always so dramatic. Okay. So the fact that Michael chose not to sit with her, combined with each person's demeanor, kind of points to him breaking up with her, I guess, if we were going to put all the evidence together. But I think that all of these things that we're sitting here arguing and discussing could work too, okay? So we can't know for sure until we get more information, right? We can make some assertions, but we can't know for sure exactly what happened with them until we start asking them questions. So it's the same thing when you make interpretations as you read. You can rely on the facts that you have until you finish the whole text. And part of this is because an author may withhold information until later in the work. You need to collect key pieces of information and develop theories as you read. For example, you may find out after class that Judy had a fight with her mom in the car on the way to school. And then Michael didn't see her when he came in, which made her even more made her more upset. And when you hear this, you realize that your first theory was incorrect, okay? And this is an important thing to realize, that it is okay completely be wrong, terribly, terribly wrong in your interpretations that you make about literature. Your main goal is to be an active reader. That means like really participating with the text, really engaging with the text, and to notice what your characters and the author are doing, okay? So now that we've kind of played around with our pretend people, Judy and Michael, in their real world situation, I want you to use key facts and events that you have from skipping Christmas to make some assertions, because now by the third chapter, we know our characters pretty well, right? We know the premise of what's going on, and we have lots of evidence to be able to make some different assertions, okay? So the first thing that we have to think about is, what are we going to make an assertion about? Which element of the text do we want to analyze? So elements that we can use to make an assertion is include what the narration or point of view tells us. So if you guys notice, there is a shift of point of view in chapter 3. What shift was that? Nora. We got Nora's perspective for the first time since reading. Before that, we had a limited perspective from Luther, right? So that kind of lets us know a little bit more about Nora. Now, before, we kind of thought that Nora was really emotional. What did this shift in perspective let us see about her when it came to her canceling those Christmas cards? Is she as weak and emotional as we thought that she was? No, she was able to do that with some strength, right? Okay, now we have also the setting. So this whole story hinges greatly on the setting, the time and place, which is Christmas time, right? And there's a lot of assertions that we can make about Christmas that the author is positing to us, right? They're not necessarily, he's using the vehicle of the characters to make some claims about Christmas. So if we wanted to rely on Christmas and rely on the setting, then we can make some assertions based on that. Now we have tone, mood, and atmosphere. So what is the tone? What is the author's tone in regard to Christmas? Remember, tone is the words that the author uses to make us feel a certain way. So if we had to make an assertion based on what we've read so far, what is the author's tone? How do we think that the author feels about Christmas? Based on only the 3 chapters that we've read. There's definitely some indication that the author does not have a very positive feeling about Christmas, right? Only because he has portrayed it that way so far in his writing. Does that mean that that's how he feels? No, we don't know. We would have to get more evidence. But we could make an assertion based on the tone so far. What about the mood? What kind of mood does the writing give you as a reader? How does the writing make you feel? If you were to categorize this in a genre, what genre would you use? Drama, okay. Comedy, so maybe comedic drama, a dramedy, a drama that's also comedy, okay. And then the atmosphere is just a general feeling that you get from the text. So what is everybody else in the setting's atmosphere about Christmas? How do they feel about Christmas? They love Christmas, right? How does Luther Crank feel about it? Not into it. And how is his wife feeling about it? Yeah, she's shifted a little bit, right? Okay. So then we have an assertions that we can make about important plot moments. So if we were going to reflect back on these 3 chapters, what are the important plot moments? What are important things that have happened to get us where we are right now, to get us to turning down the tree? Okay, Nora and Luther are going on vacation instead of going to celebrate traditional Christmas. What else? What are some other big plot points that have happened? Yeah, Nora saying on the Christmas cards. Okay. What else? Blair's leaving. That's a huge catalyst, right? If Blair was at home, would any of this be happening? No. Okay. What about Luther's experience at Chips? Is that a significant plot point to help him come to the conclusion that Christmas needs to be canceled? Yes, because it's annoying, right? He's like, this embodies everything that I hate. Okay. So any of those plot points can be used to make assertions. Okay. And there's other ones too that you can pull from as well. Now, what the diction and imagery tell us. So diction is the way that an author uses words and the way that people say things. So what is the diction like? Is this a formal diction? Is it informal? How do the characters talk? How does Luther talk? Informal. Okay. So formal would be very like reserved and everything proper English and always, and you wouldn't know anything about his emotions, but he lets us know a lot about his emotions. He doesn't have a problem keeping his mouth running, right? Okay. And then what kind of imagery do we have in this? What are all the pictures that the author has been painting to bring to life for us? The Christmas. You have no problem to imagine this Christmas, right? Like it's cold, everything's decorated, especially when it comes to their street, right? Like it's super extra Christmas, okay? Now we have figurative language and symbolism, which hasn't become a really big thing in this text, but you can use that for in other texts. We can make some very strong assertions based on the characterization that we have encountered in this text, right? We have very clear characters of Luther and Nora, and then we have kind of like a half sketch of Blair. We also have other people that we've been introduced to, like the card shop owner, the people at Chips, those kind of things that we can use, the travel agent. And then what we can learn through thematic development. So how's the theme to you developed? What's the theme right now that you, if you were going to say, here's what the theme is? You have, yes, I think you have to be assertive. You have to face challenges. And I think that you have to go after what you want, right? Like, just go against everything everybody else says. If you don't want to celebrate Christmas, should you be able not to celebrate Christmas? Even if the people in your family really want you to celebrate Christmas, is it okay to say, this isn't for me? Okay. So I think there's a certain theme. Now, there's definitely a way to go about that. Maybe a nice way, maybe a not so nice way. So what I want for you guys to do is to choose one of these elements and to build your assertion. And then you're going to use an analytical verb. And I gave you a handout that just has analytical verbs to keep the focus on the author's purpose. And you're going to make sure that you explain why the author uses this element. So a couple of examples. Gene states that Finney is his best pal. So we have a claim, an assertion right there. Sorry, I don't know. There we go. On his best pal, but his internal dialogue displays very conflicted feelings for his friend. So you see that first part, that's our assertion. Gene says that this girl is his best friend, but his internal dialogue displays very conflicted feeling. So what is the statement in the internal dialogue? The analytical verb is displays, and then why is to show that Gene has conflicted feelings. Another example, Oriana's comparison between herself and Africa suggests that, like the nation, she has no control over what happened to her. So we've got what, so what the author's purpose is, Oriana's comparison, our analytical verb is suggest, and then why is to show that she has no control, okay? So I want for you to use that model, the model of what, analytical verb, and why, to create some assertions for me. Now, I have some ways for you to practice this out before you get to the actual assertion writing process. And I have this making assertions document. I'm just going to walk you through it a little bit. So I want for you to build it on one of the following elements. And if you need to kind of develop your ideas, I've given you like a visual chart. So if you want to think about the effect of narration, the effect of having it be a limited point of view that kind of shifts between Luther and Nora. If you want to talk about the effect of the setting, the effect of the tone, the mood, the point of view, etc. How it develops the character in some way, okay? And then this is my evidence for thematic development. This might help you to organize your ideas to make an assertion, okay? And then basically all I want for you to do is just to make one assertion. So I want you to use the what is your assertion about? So if you need that chart to help build out ideas, go for it, use it. If you don't, if you already know kind of what you would want your assertion to be, the key thing is that there has to be evidence, okay? There has to be clear evidence from the text that you can back up that assertion that you're making with, okay? So if you can't back it up, if it's just a vague claim that doesn't have evidence from the text, then that is not a true assertion, right? So we want to make sure that if we're going to say something that that Luther's distaste for Christmas displays the author's possible distaste for Christmas or possible dislike of Christmas, then we need to make sure we have evidence for that. Do I have enough evidence to make a claim that the author might have feelings like this about Christmas? I don't, right? I don't know anything about the author. I just know that he normally writes legal thrillers, and this is his first comedy. So even though that might be totally valid, and if I did some research, I might be able to find out some truth, I need to only base it off of what I've gotten so far. Okay, so what I have accumulated from chapter 1, 2, or 3 for me to be able to make an assertion. Now I have a list of the verbs for you that you can borrow from, and it's a lengthy list, and I want for you just to save this for next semester, because it's an easy cheat sheet. So we've got words like advocates and alludes to, asserts, balances, bolsters, builds, characterizes, clarifies, classifies, collates, illustrates, shows, signifies, states. Okay, so you can borrow from any of these words to give yourself that clear analytical verb that kind of helps you to talk about how you're focusing the author's craft. So in the short story, Skipping Christmas, John Grisham presents a view of Christmas that is one that is driven by greed and commercial desire. So I could say that, right? And I could have evidence to support the fact that Christmas is presented as a very commercially driven and not emotional holiday. And we've got evidence that includes things like the cost of the Christmas cards, or all of the parties and the excess and the things that cost money that have nothing to do with, as what Luther points out, as the birth of Christ, right? So there's some things that I can definitely use. I just want you to do your check to make sure that you have facts, and then when you get done, to go ahead and submit that. Now, does anybody have any questions before I release you to work? Does that make sense what we're doing? So we're basically making kind of a baby thesis statement. Okay. All right. Good work. Thank you.